You're listening to Cottontail's podcast, part of the Silicon Valley Black Project, which produced the documentary film A Place at the Table about the Black pioneers of Silicon Valley. A Place at the Table can be viewed for rent on Vimeo.com on demand /A Place at the Table STEM. Through Cottontail's podcast, the Silicon Valley Black Project will continue to recognize the contributions made by African Americans. We will be featuring African American professionals, technologists in the fields of engineering, administration, and entrepreneurial pursuits from the past and present. Today, we're talking with Mr. Gary Stafford, a 20-year employee at Abbott Labs. Gary has filed and was granted over 40 patents during his career for his engineering excellence. So you're still at Abbott. What is your title at Abbott Labs?
I am a project manager for Abbott Labs. I work in the Quality Systems and Compliance group. They created this department called Business Excellence, right? Mm-hmm. And it has to do with Six Sigma and lean manufacturing and process improvement and continual improvement. So my main job is to seek out inefficient processes and then somehow automate it, if not all, but in part. I go around and I find these processes, or they come to me. It's not looking to replace anyone by any means. What it is looking to give them more time, right? Forget about all this 11th hour stuff and everything's a rush. The processes that I recommend make life easier, make problems less critical, right? You know, everything's not a crisis if you can plan for it and have some contingency for it. So that's what I do for Abbott right now. It's pretty fun.
How did you get to that position?
I started out in R&D. For a while, I got kind of bored, right? Because thinking of stuff all the time is kind of taxing, and you burn out fairly quickly, particularly in R&D when like 90% of your work ends up on the cutting room floor, right? Nobody ever sees it. So I worked for a manager, and he wanted to establish a test lab. Not only did we want to develop the products, we wanted to test them. We wanted to break them, freeze them, burn them, pressurize them. We wanted to drop them. We wanted to see, we know it makes them work. But what happens when somebody drops it 5 times, right? Are they going to have to buy another one? So I got to head up that portion of R&D, and I liked that so much more that I started to get into like Six Sigma and defect rates and all kinds of looking at the masters, Deming and Duran and Ishikawa and all those guys. So then after the test lab, they established a new group of engineers. And our main charter was to fix systemic problems, right? It's like some things happen and it's a one-off. But if it happens to 10,000 products, then there's something wrong. So we would investigate it and fix that problem. And along the way, I started to see how users actually use our product. It's one thing for the engineers, when it fails, we say, well, they didn't use it right. And I kind of had that arrogant attitude myself. Well, they're just not using it right. And then someone explained to me, well, Gary, if they don't use it right enough times, then they're going to stop buying it, okay? So, and then none of us are going to be in a good place after that. So I started to realize you have to design products that are friendly and that are reliable and that somebody can drop it in a bowl of soup and dry it out and it still functions. Maybe it doesn't quite function the same, but you don't have to run out and buy a new one. And that's when I kind of got a new appreciation for product development. It's like, wait, everything is not new. There are some things that can be made enhancements. And then those end up being intellectual property also, right? It's like, wow, look, let's make it do this. And then you go and you tinker with it. You have some degree of success to where you're able to now seek some sort of intellectual property or some competitive advantage about it. Then after that stint, they tapped me to be in the business excellence group. And I'm kind of a free agent, right? I mean, I manage projects, but not people. I manage teams for as long as I need that team, as long as that team is together. And then I move on to something else. So, I'm kind of like a troubleshooter type guy, right? The special force. I kind of liken it to that. I was never in the military, but I've seen enough movies with Chuck Norris and Arnold and all them to know that when you need a stone cold killer, you call those guys, right? And so that's kind of my reputation, what it's evolved into, in my last 7 or 8 years at Abbott.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a whole team that works with you, or are you just the man?
We actually have a group. No.
Okay.
And we do support each other, but most of us go off on our own and form the team, produce the development plans and the charters, and we actually do configurations, and we do leverage each other's knowledge, but for the most part, on my own for a bit. There are other stakeholders, other departments, but in terms of my role in the project, it's just me doing that particular aspect or element of the project.
So how long have you been with Abbott Labs?
In May, it'll be 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's unheard of in Silicon Valley.
And for bounce around guys too, right? Because you would go to a startup, the startup would get acquired, or your friends would pilfer you, right? They go someplace else and say, hey, Gary, we're really doing this really well over here. Why don't you come over here? And so I did. In about 15 years, I probably had about 7 different jobs, right? Some of them would be acquired by other companies, and I'd work for them for a while, and then I'd go to another smaller company. The advantage of going to those startups and those mid-sized companies are they need you to do a lot of different things, right? They're not going to confine you to one particular role or responsibility, right? Because, hey, it's only 10 of us in the engineering department, so we got to do all of this stuff.
Right.
However, they're kind of hit and miss, right? Not all of them succeed, right? And so there's some security in being with a larger company. One thing about Abbott is the resources are virtually infinite. If you need a piece of equipment, they say, well, give me the proposal and we'll go buy it. And then, you better return our investment, but we'll get you this equipment, right? Mm-hmm. And another thing about Abbott is they're global and they have a large presence even in the Bay Area. So if I ever did get discontent with working in Alameda, I could go to Pleasanton, I could go to Menlo Park, I could go to Fairfield. They do offer you an opportunity to move around and develop yourself. And I haven't known, none of my managers have attempted to hinder me in any way from personal development and career development. I make them look good, right? so
Well, it's almost like you're an entrepreneur in the midst of a huge corporation. You're kind of doing your own thing, like Superman. You walk in when the problem starts and open the cape
and hope the bullets bounce off,
exactly.
Right? And so, yeah.
So you're either beloved sometimes, or they hate to see you coming.
Most of the time, it's a pretty collaborative effort. Everybody gets along. Everybody realizes that we're all in it to succeed, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's not too much infighting. there is a different wave of thinking as the younger kids get out of school. I call them kids, but they're 25, 30 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they get out of school and they seem to lack some of the common sense or hard knocks that I and many of my colleagues with my tenure have endured, right? So I don't want to say that they seem entitled, but some of them kind of do, right? I mean, they come in and the company tells them, "Oh, you're the future, and we're expecting great things," and when they don't get to do all of, or if it takes longer for them to achieve what the company promised them, sometimes they get a little bit, embittered or a little bit, discontent, right? I'm going to move on, and a lot of them do, but
Yeah.
But as I said, Abbott grooms people to succeed. I got to give them credit for that. They honestly do.
Mm-hmm. First of all, what products are you working on at Abbott? Are they physical pieces of equipment, or is it add-ons to equipment? What kinds of products are you working on?
Really on your function, right?
Okay.
So process engineers build machines, right?
Right.
And product guys develop different products. I know that you've seen our commercials, the Libre.
Yes.
We manufacture products to help people manage their diabetes, right? Whether it's a monitor and test strips or a app that you can use to collect and analyze your data, whether it's a hospital meter or some other kind of consumer product. So we make hardware, software, we make the machines that build them, we create the logic that makes them function, all the algorithms and all that stuff. Those are all our guys. And so a lot of things are moving from the physical realm to a more digital realm. There's products that cross over, right? In fact, now software is being considered a medical device because of all of the information that you can derive from the product and how you manage it, how you use it, right? If you're going to use it to make some decision, oh man, my insulin is or my sugar glucose level is too high, I better dose with something, and you somehow miscalculate and there's an adverse event, you may get sick or hospitalized, or in cases you may even die. So there's like this switch over that's gradually happening that is turning software into medical devices, right? And everybody's trying to get in on it, right? Facebook, Google, GE, all of these people that typically made washing machines and stuff, right?
Yes.
Phones. Now they're trying to get into it. So the environment's pretty competitive, but that's kind of the fun of it. You know that they're not sitting back waiting for you,
That reminds me of I saw an ad for a watch on TV, and they were saying the watch basically was this person's like lifeline almost. It did everything.
Yeah.
It told them when their heart wasn't beating right. It told them when their sugar levels were too high. All kinds of things. And I know I wear this thing, whether I'm dressed up or not. This is my, and if I move my hand too quickly, it'll say, "Did you fall?" And I didn't realize it would do that. And I'm thinking, did I fall?
Sure.
What does it matter to you?
They have sensors in them, and I mean, really, you can use now your device to kind of manage your life and provide security. You live home alone, man, and you don't need to buy a separate thing that will alert people that you have fallen down or you've been injured.
Mm-hmm.
It's on your phone or your watch.
That's true. I just hadn't thought about that. I have a friend in Texas. She lives alone, and we were just talking about this, and I was telling her to go get this separate piece of equipment that you can pull a cord or something. I'm going to ask you, do you have a watch? What kind of watch are you wearing? And do you connect that up to then a service of some kind, or will it call an emergency number for you?
I think so. I'm not quite sure
Mm-hmm.
what we have in terms of our customer service at Abbott, but we do have call centers and stuff all around the world, and all of I mean, so you can press a button. Dick Tracy, right? Dick Tracy had that watch,
Right.
man, and and so it's come to fruition, right? So yeah, I'm quite sure we do have some operators or agents that could uh, call assistance for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gary, before you came to Silicon Valley, what made you come here? What enticed you
The
to come here?
opportunity to work in medical devices, right? So I worked at a company, and again, it was a small company in San Leandro, and we made orthopedics, knee braces, neck braces, arm braces, all that kind of stuff that you see all these athletes wearing to tighten up their rickety bones, ankles and stuff. So this company moved out to Tracy. So I did the Tracy commute for about 5 years, right? And again, it was one of those small companies. I think there were 5 engineers, and I got to do medical devices. So as the company grew and my stature in the company was solidified, we got some young guys in there, some young venture capitalist type guys, and they came in and they transformed the company. Then that company got sold, and I worked for them for under a name, another name, and one of the executives left. And because I had a rapport with him, he took me to his new company. And it was in Silicon Valley. It was right off Page Mill Road, man, right over there. So I was driving back and forth to Palo Alto every day. And then they moved to Cupertino. And that's right in the heart of Silicon Valley, right? And we were doing these amazing things. I mean, I got to work with I used to go to Stanford Morgue and work on cadavers, and we would go up to UCSF and have porcine labs and be working on animals, right? And you could actually use your device, and you could see what effect it would have on anatomy. And so that's how I ended up in Silicon Valley. There were 20 different companies out there looking for guys like me, right? And so or guys with my enthusiasm. I think that they weren't particularly looking for a black dude, but they enjoyed that. Hey, this guy is as good as any we can get out of around here, right? Mm-hmm. And so.
Well, on that note, I've talked to one engineer years ago. His name's Ernest Priestley, and he said to me, people find out about you or hear about you, and you build your credibility, and you don't have to advertise anymore. People come looking for you.
Yes.
Is that what happened to you?
I've been recruited and potentially recruited. The medical device community and the technical community in general is very incestuous, right? It's like, we just want to grab. I worked with this guy before. He's really good. Let's take him, right? And so yes, so you do get known for your efforts, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly if you help companies to become public and then help them to capture different markets and provide this product that has not been exploited mm-hmm. before, right?
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
In fact, I've known of teams. One guy would come into the company, and before you know it, he's got 4 of his buddies that he's worked with other companies, and they kind of go from company to company. But and it's to their advantage and also to the company, because they bring with them all of this information that they've learned over the years from these different companies. Yeah. Now, having said that, when this idea of proprietary property came into place, how did that affect your work?
I
Did it
think
affect it at
that
all?
it's the duty of all engineers to like invent and help society, right? Civil engineers build bridges and roads and stuff, right? And dams and stuff like that, right? And electronics engineers design computers, and medical device people, we help you get well. And I think it's absolutely the duty of every engineer to try to invent, right? Now, a lot of your stuff may have been done before, or you just haven't hit that right moment where you can combine other ideas from previous situations that allow you to come up with something that is new. And also, I think it's like, God gave me this ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't use it, then it's going to diminish and get taken away. I have no legacy, right? What did I leave behind, right? I was an engineer for 40 years. What did you do, right? But it's given me a new zest for engineering. When a company says, we expect you guys to submit 2 ideas every quarter that we could possibly submit for intellectual property, trademarks, patents, whatever, right? Formulas, recipes. We expect you guys to do that, right? And being in that kind of culture is really fun because it almost becomes a competition to see who can get the most, right? Right? Like, well, I submitted 10 and then some. So it's like this fun thing, and they all build on each other, right? Because now the company's got this whole bucket of ideas that they can piece together or pick or strategize or sell or whatever, right? So it's really. Did that answer your question? Kind of. I
Yes.
know that I went off on a
No, yes,
tangent.
it did. No, yes, it did.
Okay.
No. So are you
came here
a
from
native
Kansas.
Californian, or did you come
Kansas.
here from somewhere
I
else?
came here on July 7th, 1977. And so got off the plane. My mom was a single mom. We lived in Kansas. My mom went to college, got an education, and she always wanted to move to California. Because every day on TV, you know what? You can go all over the world, Germany, England, France, Spain, and there'll be some news about California on the TV. You ever notice that?
Yes.
Right? So my mom said, we're moving to California. So we loaded up the truck and we moved to California, right? Consequently, she eventually moved to Connecticut, and that's another story. But my mom, she's got this desire to just like achieve and never be really settled. She's content, but she's not settled, right? Okay, so she left and I stayed. And I'll tell you, Kathy, to me, California is the best place on earth, and particularly the Bay Area that we live in too. To me, it's the best place on earth. Yeah, there's some other places that are cool, but to me, the Bay Area, in terms of diversity and things to do and opportunity and just the quality of life, right, there's no other place for me.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one totally. And you don't realize it until you leave it, and you spend a couple of days or a week or so in another area, and you go, you don't have this kind of computer, or you don't turn it on.
Exactly.
You don't have that kind of phone or watch, or it's like
or restaurant. Restaurant. You guys don't have a park. Where's the nearest park? Oh, you guys don't have that.
Right.
What do you do around?
I was born and raised here, so I don't know anything else. And I think I didn't really appreciate it until I left it and went, oh my goodness, this is different. And you're right about people. All they think about America is California or New York. And California is always LA. It's not Northern California.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was she came from Ohio, and the job actually started in Sacramento. It didn't start in Silicon Valley. So they sit there telling people on the plane, we're moving to Sacramento, California. We're going to see Disneyland. We're going to run into the ocean. And people on the plane were like, nah, you're going to have to drive a little ways.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
that's all they know.
yeah.
So you decided to stay. How old were you when your mother left?
3, I think, when my mom left.
Okay.
And she moved to Connecticut, and she bought this farmhouse in a place called Kent, Connecticut. She's like, son, you can stay. And I was like, mom, I got finals and stuff. I have to go. And but I just did not want to live anyplace else, right?
Right.
Yeah. So now she lives in Virginia Beach, and Virginia Beach is a nice place. It's kind of like here because it's got a big military presence, and so the military, you know how those guys are. They go all around the world, and then they bring the wife back, and then the wife somehow brings the rest of the family in and stuff. So it's pretty diverse out there, and the weather is nice. I could potentially maybe live there, but no time soon.
So when we talked before, you told me that you had filed several patents. What were they in, and how did you go about doing that?
So most of the patents, the majority of my patents, some 45 of them are for Abbott Diabetes Care. Some of them are from previous companies, orthopedic companies, and then another company that made surgical balloons. So the way that it happens is Abbott particularly incentivizes you to submit ideas, right? So one, they put it in your goals, right? It's like, you guys are engineers, come up with some ideas. So they put it in your goals. And then when you do submit ideas, you get some monetary compensation. And then if it issues, you get further monetary compensation. Now, I ain't saying I get like the millions, 100 millions that they get, but they do make it, and they give you a little trophy. So the way you submit your idea, right? If you think that if your idea is novel enough and is of some benefit, and you have enough understanding of the industry and the devices to say that, this will be an improvement. When we pull it off, this will be an improvement. So I submit these ideas, and a number of them have eventually ended up in patents being granted. And so, like I said, it's kind of like the duty, right? It's like, what am I gonna do with it, man? If it can help somebody, then let Abbott spend $100,000 submitting it, right? Because that's what patents cost, right? People think, I just submit this idea. Nah, man. Eventually you end up spending $75,000, $100,000 before it becomes anything that you can call intellectual property. And big companies, unless you have a factory, how are you going to produce? I mean, I'm not telling anybody don't try to submit your own ideas. All I'm saying is, for me, for the type of inventions that I have, if Abbott didn't make them, then they'd just be stacks of paper in a dusty bookcase in my house, and I would pull it out and tell my kids, see, dad's cool, right?
Yeah.
Out of this, they're like, well, okay, But now I can show them. It's like the things that I've done at Abbott will far outlast my tenure there, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like so.
So
yeah, I got a number of them.
Do they label them the Stafford, whatever, a piece of equipment?
They do put my name on there.
All right.
They do put my name. It's
all right.
Like you get the plaque. I mean, you could go to Patent and Trademark Office and type in my name, and it's a whole list of stuff that'll come up.
Gary
Some
Stafford.
of them I was a co-inventor, but most of them it's just me. I thought it is, right? And so
That's fabulous. So I'm honored to be speaking to such
well, thank you.
Yes.
The pleasure's all mine. But yeah.
So tell me, what skills brought you to this? Were you good at math? Were you good at just solving problems? Um, what skills did you have that encouraged you or brought you to this field?
There was some raw talent that I had, right? Was I good at math? Not particularly, until I realized that math is how you solved the problem, how you proved that it would work. The skills that I have, there's this, I don't know if you, but there's this list, and you can go on the web, on different websites and say, type in genius, right? And then there's like this one thing that's like the 7 or 11 characteristics of genius, right? And so they have to do with curiosity and empathy and willingness and just human traits that you have in addition to some innate desire to just invent stuff, right? So we don't create anything. We take what nature has given us or what has come before us, and we compile it, and it comes to this configurance, right? And then you put it all together, right? But the traits that you have is you got to be kind of curious. You got to have some sort of ability to absorb technical information, right? And so when I was a little kid, my father would give us old TVs, right? And so and those were the TVs with those vacuum tubes and stuff inside of them, right? So me and my brother would take the TV apart, and we would use these tubes like rocket ships and stuff, right? We'd pretend they were rockets and build landscapes for them. But I always loved like taking things apart and then putting them back together, at least to see how they operated, and then put them back together. So you got to have that kind of natural born enthusiasm to see what's in the container, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Just as you're saying that, I'm thinking about myself. I'm not an engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I can solve problems by analyzing the situation, particularly when it comes to the use of the computer. So, for instance, my husband will say, I just typed this letter and it disappeared and I don't know where it went. And I'll tell him, step away, don't touch anything, just tell me what was the last thing you did. And he tells me, and then I'll say, okay, just before that, what did you do? And he tells me. And so I can think, okay, logically, if you did that, then it's probably still in a document that you haven't found yet. What are some of the words in the letter or paper you were writing? He'll give me some words. You can key those in and it'll pop up. You can search for it, that kind of thing. But when some people he gets to the point, and it's not that he's not intelligent. What happened with him, he's always had an admin to do the work for him. So he never had to think at that level. All he had to do was make sure he was clear on what he wanted in a memo or in a letter, and she then would produce it for him. He had no idea what she went through to get there. So now that he's retired, he can't go that level. He can't go there and think that way. And because I started out as an admin and worked up, that's the first thing I do is go back to the beginning. Like, what was the last thing you did? What did you do before that? What did you say? Boom, I can find this document. So I think it's a way of just being in the world sometimes. Sometimes you're just a problem solver. Doesn't mean you're good at math or good at whatever. You're just curious.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so You just described a typical root cause analysis, right? where you go. So I mean, all life is engineering. It's all. I mean, you go and you cook something. That's chemistry, right?
Right.
And you bake it, and you figure out how to fit it in the proper tray, and all it's all of it, right?
Right.
Musicians. One thing is you have to have an artistic sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you sing or dance or paint or sculpt or play an instrument or draw, right? That does help too, because that helps you visualize, right?
Mm.
I can always see stuff differently in terms of some people go to a junkyard and they just see a beat up old 57 Chevy. I look at it like it's showroom perfect, right? It's like I can see how it was meant to be, right? So that's kind of another trait that inventive people have, that I've been around.
Yeah. People who are interested in solving problems, they're going to look at things differently. They're always solving a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I really was surprised to hear about your background when I was at Abbott, and you were so casual about it. You weren't braggadocious in any way, and I just happened to ask you a question, and the answer just blew me to the floor. I thought, this guy sitting here, this man is Black history in the making, and nobody knows who Gary is. We need to get him on film. I need to get you on film, and I'd love to get you on film. But this podcast is going to have to do for the time being, Mr. Stafford.
Right.
Yeah, but I just think you're just a unique person. Do you think of yourself as being that unique?
See, you're making me blush. Okay, I know that I'm different.
Yeah.
Uniqueness, I kind of hold on a little bit higher level, but I understand that I am different, and I understand my own personal value, right, and confidence and sense of humor, and uniqueness. I wouldn't say. I'd have to keep it at just different, right?
Don't be shy.
I have to, and that's part of my personality. It's like, I mean, those who got it don't need to keep showing you all the time, right?
Yeah. But some people
I don't know, Kathy.
Some people I ask to do this, and they'll say, "Oh no, I don't think so." And I think it's not about you; it's about our history and the need for the audience to know that people like you and I exist, and we've been here, and we have children that are just as unique and different as we are. I'm sure your son or daughter is probably showing some of the very signs of being much like you that your mother probably saw in you. Because I'm hearing that your mother was not basically, she wasn't just a common ordinary person. She was a very unique lady herself.
Yeah.
Okay, I've had enough of this place. Let me see what's going on.
That says it in a nutshell. That she's got this wonderment, this wanderlust, right? And so, and as a single woman, I mean, my parents got divorced when I was quite young. I think I was 6 or 7. And my mom raised us all by herself. She went to college. She sent us on vacations. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman.
Mm-hmm.
I thank my mom every day that I talk to her. And I say, thanks for bringing me to California. Because if I lived in Kansas, I don't know what kind of glow I would have, right?
You'd be working at McDonnell Douglas, and you'd be an incredible engineer for them. That's what would happen.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. It would have happened because you couldn't have lived any other way. Just one other question. If a young person should, first of all, what school did you go to?
I went to San Jose State.
San Jose State. Did you major in engineering or?
Yes.
Okay.
By that time, it was engineering.
And that had to be in the 70s? 70?
No, I graduated in like 88. So
okay.
I stayed in school a long time because I bounced around. I wanted to be a lot of things. And so,
Yeah.
So in 88, then I went there.
What part of engineering did you major in?
Mechanical.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's one of those fields where it covers everything, doesn't it?
It covers a lot of different aspects. Yeah. Machinery, electricity, dynamics, calculus, physics, statistics. It's pretty well-rounded. One of the more well-rounded ones is chemical engineering. It's also a pretty diverse degree that you get exposure to a lot of different disciplines when you study those. But ME was what I wanted to be. Actually, at first I wanted to be an architect, and I worked for an architect. And while I was still in school, I was a draftsman and stuff, and I learned how to letter and all that. And so this architect hired me, and when the buildings are finished, so is the job, right? And so he's like, I'll call you next contract I get. So then I went back to school, and a friend of mine was taking mechanical engineering, and he's like, well, why don't you come attend this class with me? And he's like, a gear is a gear, man. A machine is a machine, right? You don't have to be all artsy and everything, right? Okay, so I moved over to that, and it was a little bit tougher. Well, actually, it was a lot tougher, but I had a better understanding because I had always struggled with math because it seemed abstract to me. Mm-hmm. But then in designing buildings, you understand that if you know what that calculation means, right? This calculation means that it's going to stand up. And if you get it wrong, it'll fall over, right? And who wants an architect that builds stuff that? So I got a better understanding of mathematics. I never stopped looking back after that.
You found a practical application for mathematics, and then began to understand it. Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
And it's kind of been my whole life, right? When I was in karate and stuff, it's like it always takes me more than once before I get it right?
Right.
So I flunk out of this stuff and then go back and okay, now I get it.
Right.
Now I get it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. But see, a lot of things I learned, Kathy, in my college days, being like the only one, mm-hmm. maybe there's two of us, is that a lot of my classmates, their fathers were engineers and lawyers and doctors, and so they got that all the time, right? And mm-hmm. I just got it in class, right? And so I would say, how do you guys know this?
Right.
Oh, my dad's an engineer, mm-hmm. right?
So think about, we were coming from a long distance because we hadn't heard those words and we didn't have a meaning for them. And you can't go to the library all the time and look up every single word you hear all day.
That's right, yeah.
That first pass of first year at college is a real eye-opener for a lot of minority students, not just black kids, but kids who live in the country, in the rural settings and small towns, and who aren't exposed to more sophisticated systems, have a hard time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Gary, I am just so thankful that we had this time together. It was great hearing your story. Thank you, Gary, for sharing your life of inquiry and discovery with us. And thank you for listening.